I did a video on Russia and the Ukraine and the issues going on there and how it's getting really, really scary and stuff. And it's crazy seeing the dynamic here in the States as to how split our politics are and how the Republicans and Democrats are taking sides and in the whole debate about whether we should be helping the Ukraine or not. And of course, I think that if they're going to be invaded, yeah, we should probably help them a little bit. How much is a bit of a question, like what's going to just help them or what's going to harm the whole world by causing another world war. But there's some people that are being really crazy about it. And one of those people is Tucker fucking Carlson. Once again, this guy, I don't know, man. He's I don't know. I never know what's gonna come out of his mouth, and usually it's crazy. That's for sure. So recently, because of some things that he has said on his program, he's had his followers, his viewers, calling senators saying that we should back Russia in the whole situation. Yes, he is great at rallying the crazy, Derpshot. Very crazy at rallying the crazy. So let's take a look at this article here. Tucker Carlson viewers calling me to say U.S. should back Russia, Democrat says. New Jersey congressman says viewers are calling to express distress that Biden's not siding with Russia in Ukraine crisis. Whew. God, this is gonna make me want to punch myself in the face just reading through this, guys. I'm just, oh man. Okay, let's get it. A congressman from New Jersey has disclosed that he is receiving calls from viewers of Tucker Carlson's primetime Fox News show, expressing distress at the Biden administration's backing of Ukraine in the tense military standoff with Russia. Democratic Representative Tom Malinowski said in a tweet his office was fielding calls from Carlson viewers upset that we're not siding with Russia in its threats to invade Ukraine. Okay, this is how fucked up and twisted Americans' heads have been because of right-wing media, because of the division in this country, because of everything that's going on, because of the lies, the misinformation, so on and so forth. It comes to this kind of stuff. It makes crazy happen. It makes... So, could you imagine if there was a political pundit in the 80s that was simping for Russia like this? Or had his followers simping for Russia like this? I mean, I don't get it. Okay, so Russia's not like the, evil, like evil as a whole. Like there are a lot of good people in Russia. The government right now, though, is trying to be fashy as fuck. They're trying to annex countries left and right. They did it with Georgia. They did it with Crimea. And now they're trying to do it with the Ukraine. And the Ukraine asked NATO for help. And so NATO is helping. Because if they don't, then the Ukraine will be no more. It'll just be the ass end of Russia. So, anyways, the callers, he said, want me to support Russia's reasonable positions. News of the effect of Carlson's broadcast doubting support for Ukraine came as the Pentagon placed 8,500 troops on high alert ready to deploy to Europe, amid fears that a Russian invasion could be imminent. NATO allies have been struggling to project unity in opposition to the Russian President Vladimir Putin's belligerent amassing of more than 100,000 troops on the Ukraine border. Carlson, the top-rated host on Rupert Murdoch's right-wing news channel, has been using his nightly bully pulpit to question the merits of Washington's backing through NATO of Ukraine in the face of Putin's expansionist threat. On Monday night, his show screened an image of the White House with the words "war machine" stamped over it. Oh my God, the propaganda. Can you... Jesus Christ. War machine. Yeah, like okay, so Joe Biden's not doing a lot. He's not fucking doing much to help the American people. However, one thing that I can say about him is that he has significantly reduced drone warfare in other countries, which significantly reduces the amount of collateral damage, namely innocent bystanders, innocent citizens. All right, so he's done that. He pulled out of Afghanistan. What? And then they got pissed off at him for that. They like ripped into him for getting out of Afghanistan, and then he agrees to send some what they're calling lethal aid to the Ukraine, which I think is also a propaganda term. Why don't you just say guns? Just say weapons. You're going to send them weapons. You're going to send them defensive weapons. It's okay. It's okay. We know what's going on. All right. So, but the thing is that Biden up until this point has been avoiding those like conflicts overseas. He's been, lessening the drone strikes to a point where they're lower than they have been since 2004 when drones were first started being used. And he pulled out of Afghanistan, but now he's a war hawk because he sent some aid to the Ukraine so that they didn't get annihilated by Russia. Yeah, sounds like it's a war machine in there. Yep. So that I completely disavow the framing of whatsoever. I think Joe Biden's too lazy or too, I don't know, maybe senile to even think about starting a war. However, it is possible that they could use this to their political advantage and start a conflict so that they can stay in power. It's been done before, and I'm not saying that the Democrats are above it or that Joe Biden's above it, but up until this point, he hasn't shown that he's that he's making the White House a war machine. So, the host accused neocons in the Biden administration of betraying our country's interests and said a massive lobbying campaign by Ukrainian politicians and American defense contractors was behind the strategy. Always a fucking conspiracy with this guy. Ukraine was strategically irrelevant to the U.S., Carlson said. In his analysis of the crisis, Carlson made no mention of Putin or his ambition. See, that's the thing about that Republicans, man. They don't give a shit about humanitarian efforts. They don't care. Like, what's there for us? Is there oil there? Is there something there that we can take for our benefit? Is that something we can do? And nobody said anything when Bush had his little revenge war in Iraq as well. You didn't see anybody saying anything about that. But all of a sudden, the White House is a war machine, and there's no reason to help the Ukrainian people because we're not getting anything out of it, which is bullshit. Absolute bullshit. We can help a country so that they don't get annexed or annihilated, overcome by another larger, more fascistic nation. All right. That's something I'm okay with helping with. I'm not okay with invading a country just so we can get their oil, or invading a country just because they're doing politics we don't like or they've got a left-leaning socialist progressive president that they just put into office, and then we do a regime change war so that it's more capitalist. We do stuff like that all the time. It's really bullshit. We shouldn't be doing stuff like that. But helping a friend and helping somebody be safe from a fascistic imperialist force, that seems okay with me in a matter of speaking. Derpshot says Russia's access to the Black Sea is being threatened, is the TLDR of what I understand about it. We have no business getting involved at all unless there's lithium in mines in Ukraine. Now, see what I mean? No, here's the thing though, man. Whenever somebody, yeah, I know it's tongue in cheek. Whenever we see an imperialistic power like this in the country that's slowly engrossing themselves in war to dissolve other countries and annex them into their own, when we see a country, we don't do that in the 21st century. It's not something that the world does anymore. And when people do it, especially to a large scale, like Ukraine's not a small country, and then that's going to be on running up against Poland, and then what do they do? And then Poland's part of NATO. So what do we do if Poland starts getting trouble from Russia? It's not as cut and dry as, oh, we shouldn't be involved at all, because that's what we said for a long time during World War II. We said that for a long time during World War II. We didn't get our asses in there and actually take care of business until the end of the war. And we should have been in there way earlier because our allies were suffering. They're just like throwing everything they can at them, like pots and pans and whatever the fuck they have, right? And we wouldn't have done it. You're right. We wouldn't have done anything during World War II if we didn't get attacked by Japan, right? We wouldn't have gotten involved even then. And there would have been more and more people that were killed. And the whole thing was awful. I mean, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, not cool. But, there were a lot of other things, a lot of other factors. I mean, they were trying to commit a genocide with the Jews, the Jewish population there. So it's like, come on, we could have done more. And we're not even sending troops over there right now. We're simply sending weapons to them and aiding NATO, which we're part of, and making sure that they're able to defend themselves. That's it. Anybody who thinks that like Russia is the good guy in this situation is just sadly mistaken, because Putin has no scruples, and he has no objectives other than amassing as much power under him as humanly possible. The man's, he's a fasci. He's a fascist. He's a totalitarianist. That's what he wants. Yeah, like there hasn't been a free and fair election in Russia for years because of that man. So that's a good sign that there's some fascistic stuff going on there. We'll go through this a little bit more. The host accused neocons in the Biden administration betraying our country's interest, and said a massive lobbying campaign by Ukrainian politicians and American defense contractors was behind the strategy. Ukraine was strategically irrelevant to the U.S., Carlson said. In his analysis of the crisis, Carlson made no mention of Putin or his ambition to push back NATO from Eastern and Central Europe, nor of Ukraine's standing as a sovereign nation, which achieved independence 30 years ago. Ukraine is a bigger country in landmass than France, with a similar population to Spain, now facing an unprovoked invasion from a neighboring power. So that's what I'm talking about there. They need our help. And they asked NATO for it. We're part of NATO. We help our allies, right? Carlson has used his show to express contentious views on Europe before. For a week in August, he relocated Tucker Carlson Tonight to Budapest, from where he broadcast glowing reports on the authoritarian leadership of Viktor Orban. This week, he indicated that he plans to return to Hungary soon for more broadcasting praising the government's tough stance on immigration. Yeah, he likes fascist countries. He likes dictators. He thinks they're A-okay, right? And millions of Americans love this guy and think they're patriots for watching him. Jesus Christ. Speaking to The Hill, Malinowski said, "People get their opinions by watching the news. That's nothing new. What is new is we have at least one talk show host with a huge captive audience that is not exposed to any counter-programming elsewhere. I find that very concerning." And it's very true. So, what do we learn, kids? Tucker Carlson's a fascist. He likes dictators. And he's trying to get his viewers to simp for Russia. We also learn that the Ukraine's a sovereign country who's had their independence for 30 years. They deserve to keep it. And they asked NATO for help. We're part of NATO. We're offering our help. No troops yet. And I say yet because I don't know if Biden's going to do that or not, but he shouldn't. I think that could lead to an exacerbation of the situation, but we might not have a choice. It just kind of depends on where this road goes down, and it's not looking good, to be honest. Then we've got people in our own country that are going to be very upset because Carlson told them to be upset, And so that might exacerbate problems here as well. It's just a never-ending cycle of bullshit. And I just man, I hope we don't get blown up in a nuclear attack. That's all I'm saying.